All right. Welcome, everybody. I am Peter Shellard, Commit Actions founder and CEO. I'm excited to be diving in today to another Commit Action live stream Q&A. We've got questions about some really deep stuff this time, some really meaty questions. I'm excited for that. For our live stream, can I get a comment that you guys can hear us loud and clear, and just let us know where you're logging in from? We've got a bunch of Commit Action clients on board. We're also live streaming out to some other people as well who are going to be tuning in and watching this. But from our clients who we've got you here in the chat, let us know that you're here. Drop us a comment while I introduce the team who are joining me. So first up, we have Mr. Taylor Shaw, Commit Action's Chief Coaching Officer. Taylor, say hi to the people.
Hey, everybody. Looking forward to answering your questions here today.
Awesome. So Taylor's joining us. He's going to be jamming on questions. He runs the coaching operation here at Commit Action. Full of wisdom, has been working with, gosh, for like a decade or whatever now. Working with tons of entrepreneurs. And we also have Alex, our COO, who is a coach himself, a coach, what's the word? Coach player, Alex? Something like that. He does it
Player
all.
coach.
Mr. Alex Hartman, there he is. Say hi to the people, Alex.
Hey guys, I will be in the chat. So if you have questions, make sure you put them in there. I'll try to relay them to Peter and Taylor, and I'll be chiming in with my thoughts on answers as well. But good to see you all. Let's kick this off.
Please take a note of Alex's vintage Commit Action swag. He's sporting an old logo and then the new. Has 1 foot in the past and 1 foot in the future. This man does it all. I love it. Awesome. Welcome. So Taylor, we get people, the Commit Action client community emails questions throughout the week as we get ready for these workshops, for these Q&As. So we've got some amazing psychology, strategy questions from people building companies. Let's start with one of them. Taylor, do you want to kick us off?
We have a question in here. So I've been wondering how you build and then choose to deploy Bravado. I'm a technical founder, solo right now, also relatively introverted, and I'm chiefly aware of the limitations of my product. I've been burned in the past by others overcommitting for me, so I'm quite measured in my statements. Good for building trust, bad for building excitement. How do I build the my product can do everything mentality for initial calls and then walk it back when the rubber meets the road?
This is such a good question. This has to do with like the entrepreneurial reality distortion field, right? And I think anybody who's been playing the game of business for a while kind of meets these characters who are these people who are like all sizzle, no steak, right? The high functioning sociopath entrepreneurs who are churning and burning their way through relationships, promising the world and delivering nothing. Our media loves to tell those stories, right? The most famous one in recent times being like Elizabeth Holmes, or the WeWork guy. What was that guy's name? Adam Newman. These entrepreneurs who like promise big things and get nothing done. But it's funny, like this is my answer to this question, that these stories keep being generated, right? They keep happening because because like being effective at sales and being able to hype stuff up continues to be effective. And so as an entrepreneur, like I think a lot of people who are more technical founders, who are more builders, like the person, I think his name's Noble, who's asking this question, tend to massively overestimate how salesy they are being and tend to kind of undersell, underhype what it is that they're doing, which creates this blue ocean of opportunity for the audacious psychos out there to come in and make these crazy bold promises. And so I think one of the first mindset shifts you have to understand if you're an entrepreneur who's felt awkward about really putting yourself out there, making these big promises, is that like, if you're not doing it, somebody else will. And so I think like where I start on this topic is the sort of moral obligation you have if you know what you're doing and you know how to deliver value. Noble has a business that's some type of client services. It's technical. It's like the engineering stuff that he's building, software product or something like that. And Noble, if you're here live in the chat, by the way, like clarify, tell us what you're working on. But yeah, like if you have that expertise, then I think you have this moral obligation to really learn how to sell it and how to get comfortable with it. Because if you don't, people who don't know what they're doing but have that, like, their mama didn't raise them right psycho gene in them, will come in and like win contracts that you should otherwise be doing. That's kind of the way that it works. And you see the most of this activity, excuse me, the most of this type of hype selling, you're always going to see on whatever the technical frontier is. So we're seeing it in AI a lot right now, right? It is possible. There are people, entrepreneurs, who a year ago weren't doing anything with AI, who are now running AI consulting companies, right? And those are the people who don't have the technical expertise, but they have that ability to do that crazy selling. We saw the same thing in crypto like a few years before the AI revolution, and it'll be something else again in the future. So tactically, I want to just talk for a second about, like, if you're that reluctant person who feels that you're out of integrity when you make big promises, this is like, here's some advice on how to cross that chasm psychologically. I think that as you make the promises, you should also speak to the hard truths, speak to the bitter pills, the difficult parts of, like, the industry where you know that friction is going to happen. And you should do that at the beginning of the process, right? Like, I think that what people really respect is a big promise of what's possible, and then a pre-framing of, but here are the obstacles that we're going to face in order to get there. So if you're selling me something, and Alex, what did Noble say? What industry is
he's working on, he said, pretty novel QA for manufacturing. QA is that quality assurance?
Yeah. So if you're in like a meaty, detailed space like that, if you're selling me something, tell me what's possible. Tell me what the best case scenario looks like, but then talk me through what generally tends to happen and the obstacles that I tend to face. Because when you're in a sales process, your client wants to believe. They've got that uninformed optimism where they're like, I'm excited about what's possible. So if you lay down that foundation of, like, here's what I've seen when other people get this wrong, and here's how this engagement, even if you and I like work really, really well together, could go off the rails, you get your conditions, you get your integrity-based points across at the beginning, so that you kind of put it out there at the moment of peak excitement. So you've got to bundle them together. The big vision of what would be possible if they were the most amazing and compliant client and worked with you perfectly, trusted you, you were able to do your thing, paint that picture, and then also hit them with the, like, here's what often happens, right? Like, here's the ways that it can go wrong. And they'll be like, and then tell them, I want to work with you so we avoid these things. And they'll be like, yeah, of course. Like, we're on the same page. This sounds great. So that's often that's the unlock that gets you out of it. The goal is to like try to be a consultative salesperson, right? Talk about the challenges and be like, and frame it as, I will be there with you while we do these things. The psychos won't talk about the challenges. They'll just talk about the brilliance, the what's possible, and we've seen that type of stuff. Enough said on that question. You guys got any thoughts you want to add? No? Good?
No, that was great.
Oh, so awesome. Taylor, let's line up another one. And by the way, if you're here, I should just say, if you're here live with us, throw questions into the mix. We've got a few that we're going to jam on that people have taken the time to email in, but we love live questions. You guys can steer them because you're here. So let us know what's on your mind. Even if it's just like a topic you'd like the team and me to riff on, let's do it. Go ahead, Taylor.
All right. Sounds good. So we have a question from Jessica. She said, what to do when you know you need to do something you don't want to do, like sales outreach? Kind of, I guess, aligned a little bit there. What do you do to get over the initial resistance? She has also tenacity, how to hang in there when the results aren't showing yet, but it's those that stay the course that win. Let's stop there, because the other one's not really as related to that.
I was going to say, Alex is going to want to say something. I knew it.
I mean, I had this conversation today with one of my clients. I mean, he needs to make basically cold calls all the time, and it's never fun to make cold calls. So there's two simple things that I always like to say is, one, gamify it in some way, right? We need to figure out a way to get a more immediate positive feedback loop. right? If we're making a cold call, we're going to be let down more times than not. If we're making sales calls, they're going to be disappointed more times than not. We have to figure out a way to gamify the process, right? So did I make the calls today, right? Did I make the calls this week? Like what's the built-in kind of metric or reward system for doing that? Right? Because ultimately what we want to do with this is we want to see the process itself as the goal. If I said I was going to do 25 calls this week, I did all 25 of my calls, I am winning. That does feel good, right? Because we know, and you said it in your question, I don't know if you're here, but you said in your question, the longer you do it, the more tenacity you have, the more relentlessness you have in terms of doing it consistently, the more likely you are to succeed. So if we just measure doing it consistently and have that as a positive feedback loop, it is going to feel better. And along the way, we should get some wins, and then we can start building on metrics, right? So I did 120 calls, and that equaled 18 conversations. And out of those 18 conversations, I got 3 sales. 120 calls equals 3 sales, right? So we can say now I need to make another 120 if I want 3 more sales. So we can keep playing with the numbers, keep gamifying it. And my favorite example, last thing from me, I know I'm rambling. My favorite example from back in the day that we had, I think in our first ever webinar Commit ever made, was the Jerry Seinfeld joke example, where like, did I do the thing I'm supposed to do? Put an X on the calendar. I wrote a joke. Was it good? Am I successful because of it? Doesn't matter. Did I do it? It does matter. Put an X, measure it, measure the process.
Yeah. Love it. I had a feeling that, so this stuff is like 100% in Commit Actions wheelhouse. This is a question, and hopefully that was from a relatively new client, because this is the stuff that our coaches work on all the time. Gamification, action result gap. I knew that you guys were you were gonna smash on that one. And I just looked over at the non-client live stream out to the wider community here, and I see that we've got a couple people wanting to verify it's live. So tell them that it's live, Alex.
I did. Okay. It's live. We're good to go. Yeah. Yeah. The gamification, like you were saying, is the most important thing. And just to have everybody here, especially if you're new, understand the way Commit Action works so well, is because what it's built to do is also build in that immediate positive feedback loop from you taking the hard action, right? When you're doing it in a vacuum in isolation, it's really hard to get that feedback. I did it, but like, you did it. Like, that's all it is. But if you and your coach set up, we're doing 5 calls a day every single day this week, and you come back and you're like, I hit all my calls, I did 2 above, here's what happened. You get that dopamine, you get that feedback loop. It has you wanting to do it again. So it's the reason, like, isolation for entrepreneurs, especially when you have to do the hard thing, is so difficult, because you have no way of getting that feedback. It's all in your head. It's really hard to pat yourself on the back for just doing the process. But if you have that person in your corner that you're reporting into and they're helping you evaluate and continue to do it, it becomes a lot, I don't want to say fun, but a lot easier to do the hard thing.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Awesome. Taylor, what else are we cooking on here? What other questions have we got?
I'm in the chat here. I see Mitch. What's up, Mitch? Mitch asked, as the company continues to scale, how do you constantly remind the team of the North Star and ultimately the why of the company? I feel like this comes up a good bit on these Q&As and in our calls.
Well, I want Mitch to write what is the North Star and the why of the company, because I think I'd love to know what that stuff is. If you can put it in a sentence or 2, that'd be really cool. I think that there's a real balance here. I know that there's a bunch of like popular leadership books and stuff out there that kind of say like the why is everything. I think that in a lot of small businesses, incentives are equally as important, right? Like, what's in it for them? I see so many tone deaf small business owners who have read Simon Sinek, who are like, people want purpose more than anything, but they're like underpaying, and they've got a bunch of people who work for them who like, let's be honest, we're not OpenAI, we're not SpaceX, we're not building like these generational kind of like changing the world type of companies. So you've got to have this you got to be real with yourself about this healthy balance. It could be great to have a vision of like, hey, we want to be the very best solution in this space. We want to delight these customers. We want to do something. Like, you could be like, look, we want to be the best butcher shop in the wider Philadelphia area, like the most legendary, most reviews of all time, and have a vision like that. But you've also got to have a vision for the people who are doing that work of what does it mean for them if you achieve that, right? What does it create for them in their lives? The big leadership piece that I think a lot of the why motivated entrepreneurs don't understand is that you've got to be a conspirator and a collaborator in the life project of your employees. You've got to be helping them get where they want to go. And the vision, the mission, that the why that you're excited about, that has to have like a Venn diagram overlap with what they're doing, right? And this is on an individual level. Like your head of marketing needs to know that as you go towards your vision of scaling the company, maybe your big goal is like, we want to hit a growth target in the next year, right? That they're developing skills while they're doing that, that if they hit that goal, it's going to mean some type of incentive in terms of cash for them or whatever it is. You've got to do the work of connecting those dots up, right? The Ben Horowitz at Andreessen Horowitz talks about the field of play with this, that you have to kind of, it's sports metaphor. You have to understand, you have to paint this picture so that your team understand the field of play that they are individually on, the goalposts, the boundaries, what they have to run toward, and what it means for them to like get it across that finish line. So the why is super important, but the what's in it for me has to be like hand in hand with the why. Taylor, this is kind of your wheelhouse. Taylor runs the largest team in terms of personnel at Commit Action. He's kind of the quintessential people manager. Do you have any thoughts you want to add on this stuff?
Yeah, well, and Mitch has a secondary question here too. Like, when do you decide to offboard someone who's really not meeting performance standards? I don't know. Like, to me, it's like everyone knows there's a simplification in what success means in the first place. Like, I don't know. I find when I'm on a call and I hear some of this resentment, a lot of times I'll go, okay, so what would that person have had to have done for you to even say the opposite? You know, that was successful, and then that had that shared upside that you're talking about. And I hear a lot of gray area in there. I don't know. I think also just really defining those KPIs on like what matters most. I know with the coaching we have, it's churn, right? It's our retention numbers. I know when the coaches hit a certain number, I know what it does for the company, and those coaches know what it does for the company, and it kind of shared upside it creates, you know, in their paycheck. Exactly what you're saying, like
Right.
tied to that objectivity and not like subjectivity, where those were the conversations go to die too. And you're not talking about these things, and then you're not sure whether to offboard somebody who's not meeting certain performance standards. I would say to Mitch too, like if everyone's clear on this and then someone's not meeting those certain standards, you know, it's A+ players like being with other A+ players, and you kind of send a signal to the rest of them if you're not offboarding that person.
Right.
I don't know the exact circumstances there, but
Yep. No, I just put out a video on like a reel on Instagram, literally about this whole topic, this idea that this idea that if you allow somebody who requires a lot of hand holding, who consistently performs at a different level. We got a question on the last one of these these live streams from somebody who said, you know, does that create tension with employees? Do you think my employees resent the extra hand holding that I do? And I was like, there's definitely tension, and they definitely resent something, but it's not what you think it is. It's not about the hand holding you're doing. It's about the fact that, like, it's about what you holding on to this person says about your whole business and what you care about. That's the real problem. They don't care that you're spending your time with that person. They care that that person is still allowed to be here. And it causes your A players to go, man, why don't I just do a half-assed job and have my boss like fill in and hold, like, you know, cover a lot of the gaps that I'm struggling with right now. So
yeah. And I know one thing too that I've learned over time is that if we're thinking it and talking about it, others are too. You're not the only one as CEO thinking those things. Well, I noticed Colleen's in the chat here. We had a question from her before jumping on here. She says, I'm brand new to Commit Action, just started this week. My question is about using the need to feel special as a psychological crutch for avoidance. For me, it sounds like I'm not further along on my business goals this day, week, or month because I'm dealing with childhood trauma or family mental health situation. Fill in the blank. And the fill in the blank thing is just life. So the stuff everyone deals with on top of their job. But I tend to use it to rationalize, to make excuses of a higher order. At the same time, I'm a big believer that you can make money or you can make excuses, but you can't make both. So when you catch yourself in that victim mindset, how do you work around it? My own instinct would be something rooted in acceptance and commitment therapy and values-driven action, but I'm curious how you'd approach it.
Yeah. This is Colleen.
Yeah, this is gonna be a good Peter answer. I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones.
No pressure. No pressure. Yeah, this is an epic question, and we're gonna go deep into it. So, Colleen, first of all, thank you, by the way, for showing up and asking this question. I understand Colleen's joined us live. Epic vulnerability. It's awesome. This is so. When this question came in, I was talking before this stream started with Taylor, and he was like, "This comes up." He was like, "This is a thing that we deal with on calls." And I have a lot of thoughts about it, and it's complicated. So where to begin? The first thing is that you have to be able to embrace paradox. You've got to hold a couple of things in your mind at the same time that can both be true, that can feel like they're in conflict with one another. So I think that here's a couple of them. When we judge ourselves, the best and healthiest way to do that is on how far we have come, right? So as an entrepreneur, I think that it's really important that you, when you're kind of thinking about yourself and whether or not you feel good about yourself and what you've accomplished, you have those moments at the end of a long day on a Sunday afternoon where you're like, what am I doing with my life? It's really important to pay attention to how far have I come from where I started. Now, if you're 22 years old, building your first startup, living off ramen, right? You haven't come that far. And that should make you feel a bit shitty and motivated and like a chip on your shoulder to go out and prove yourself. But my guess, Colleen, is that that's not you, right? That's not the average commit action client in terms of our demographics. And so most of us find gratitude in that reflection, right? It's what you've got to understand is that we live in a world, there's all these studies coming out. I saw one in the news today about how unhappiness is peaking. We are the most miserable society in these measurable ways that we've seen in like the last 70 years. Part of the reason for that, I think, is that we're all being fed this diet of everybody's highlight reel, right? In COVID, the use of social media went mainstream. Grandma got on Instagram, right? Like people were getting, boomers were on Facebook, but now it's like everybody's on everything. Grandma's on TikTok. People are seeing these reels of how like the rich and famous and the influencers who have hacked their way to rich and famous lifestyles are kind of living. And we don't just compare ourselves to the Joneses next door. We're not like, oh, Steve's got a new BMW. Like, man, what am I? Well, I should have gone to like dental school, right? We don't just have that. We're literally watching people like fly around in private jets and talk about how you summer in Switzerland. And, you know, like there's just this lifestyle that was always happening, but was totally invisible is now visible to us all. So in terms of how we think about self-worth, if we compare ourselves to others, we go crazy, right? It never feels good because we're in this machine now where we're just fed comparison that we're never going to measure up to. So this delta of improvement on our past is really, really important. But I haven't actually addressed the core of this of Colleen's question, which is about the victim mindset of what happens if you've got stuff in your life that really does make life difficult, right? And we all suffer, right? This is karma. This is the experience of being alive, of being human. We have good things that happen and we have bad things that happen. The important thing with that retrospective perspective is you've got to be able to contextualize your accomplishments in spite of those things that have happened to you, right? So if you come from an abusive background, if you've got really sick parents, think about what you've done in the last year and be grateful of that despite those things. So you've got to hold, that's the first truth that you've got to hold in your mind. We ready for the paradox? The paradox is when you're looking ahead at the future, you have to embrace that mindset that Colleen put in her comment, which was, I can produce results or I can produce reasons, right? Reasons why I couldn't. You've got to get to that place. You've got to get into that place of being the stoic person who's like, I'm simply just going to refuse to let this stuff hold me back. So for goals in the future, that's a great way to operate. If you can look at the past and paradoxically also go, yeah, given all the stuff I'm facing, I'm doing really fucking great, right? Because then you're grateful and you're also being hard on yourself in a productive way about where you want to go in the future. Does that make sense? You guys are my barometer here. Do either of you have any thoughts? I want to talk about this one in a bit of detail, but yeah, what do we think?
I I won't go into the trauma part of this, but the parents being sick, that I mean that comes up a good bit, and I know what that's like for my parents and my grandparents, and that's where I don't there's action to be taken there in
Yeah.
those situations, and that is where if you expand it more into productive procrastination, that is where I do start to see that where it can be a comfort zone to live in a little bit versus something that's a bit less comfortable, more uncomfortable, obviously, and it's that it can become theater a little bit that you talk about, Peter, where like you're doing those things and those feel like wins and movement, but it starts to become avoidance to some of the things that will really be highest leverage. I think that's something to be mindful of a little bit, but I mean, I certainly think I don't know. I don't have too much to add to that. I just think there's foundation, but then it gets to a point where like does become a little comfortable.
Yeah, I think that the thing about like Viktor Frankl is the ultimate book on this, right? Man's Search for Meaning. You know, for most people have heard of this book. Most people have, I think a lot of people have read it, but to just quickly hit on it, it's, you know, it's about a Holocaust survivor who was a psychologist who noticed that there were patterns, I mean, among other things, in who survived the concentration camps in Nazi Germany, and, you know, what was different about them from a mindset point of view. And what I think it's an important sort of psychological text in the history of psychology, because it does deal with this issue of, it deals with this fundamental question of why is it that there are some people who experience the worst traumas and are empowered by them, and there are others who experience terrible, horrific trauma and their lives are shattered by them, and they're destroyed. And the thing about the concentration camps is, like, you know, barring individual differences, the traumas were the same. Like everybody, these people who were in these camps, they all had the same trauma. So it was this very grim and horrific experiment that he was a participant, an unwilling participant in, that he kind of got to observe. And so highly recommend, Colleen, that you check this out. It'll definitely kind of give you some perspective on trauma and rising above it. And I think it's very difficult to have this conversation with somebody who really is the victim of any serious trauma, because it can come across as incredibly insensitive. But the truth is that there is an opportunity to treat these things as a constraint in your life that you have to be creative around, right? That you've got an aging parent that you have to care for, and you have to build a business in the windows of time that you do have available to you. That's a rough situation. It's difficult, but it's a constraint that can inspire a lot of creativity, and it can sharpen your ability to be focused and productive like nothing else. In the same way that anyone who's a parent and an entrepreneur will also know and experience that when you have a baby and you bring a baby into your family, you think you have this big fear that you're going to, like, your productivity is going to go out the window. And what actually happens always, you get a little used to it. There's a few weeks of craziness, and then you are like locked in a way that you didn't think was possible. And you have this moment where you're like, what did I do before with all my free time? Like, that was crazy. I wasted so much of it. So the constraint inspires the focus. And so those types of tough experiences, Colleen, that you are living through can be that positive experience. If you can hold that paradox, right? If you can not beat up on yourself and feel like a victim and feel poor old me, because you're looking at your past and you're proud of what you've accomplished, that opens you up to, I'm also going to be ruthless with myself about achieving despite these constraints. I'm going to be stoic. I'm going to say there's no such thing. Like, it's either results or reasons, and I'm going to produce results. Does that make sense? Alex, what were you going to say?
Yeah, that makes sense. I had the conversation around this a lot, where there are these constraints or there's not enough time. And then the instinct for a lot of people is to figure out how to optimize all their time so they can do everything they want to do and they can do it faster. Right. And that's what we call over optimization. I have a whole speech on that. I won't get into it. But the one thing that we want to do is we want to plan for, I always tell my clients, like, circumstances have to dictate your ambition. Right. If you have, realistically, under your circumstances that you're in, if you have 5 hours, like realistically, very realistically, not optimistically, realistically, have 5 hours to work, how are you being ambitious inside that 5 hours? Not how are you finding 30 hours to work in a week where you have all these circumstances. How are you leveraging the time you do have and being ambitious in that? So what happens a lot is people, okay, this is what I've been dealt. Here's my circumstances. And then I'm still going to Tyler and Peter said, I'm looking at what everybody else is doing, getting the feed from Instagram. Everybody's successful in doing this. And I'm trying to get there as fast as possible. So we plan in this over optimized way where I'm going to do everything I think I should be doing all at the same time, all at this mastery level. And then when we show up to do it, under the circumstances that we have, we immediately shut down. And that's where we can allow those circumstances to be the reason we shut down, right? Versus I have 5 hours this week. It's enough for me to make some kind of incremental improvement or incremental progress. How am I being ambitious inside that time?
Love it. All right. Enough said. Colleen, let us know in the comments if you have any clarifying questions. We can come back to this one. I think it's like the most important thing we've discussed in one of these for a long time. But while you're doing that, Taylor, do you want to throw in another question from the people?
Yeah, I want to throw in a question from YouTube from Patrick Brunel. By the way, guys, we are live. I see the questions. Just looking at you, Clip Bishop. So Patrick asks, the sales business in solar was pushing towards my goals, and then the political landscape changes hit hard, and I went back to square one. I'm struggling to find the same drive I had before. Is there a secret?
What's the secret? This is a cool one.
I can go through why a little bit you're struggling.
Okay.
Right. So Patrick, I'm going to try to do this as succinct as possible because it's one of our major core concepts. But there's something called the 5 stages, the 5 emotional stages of business, right? 1 and 5 feel amazing. 2, 3, and 4 are psychologically like terrible, right? You're failing, you're figuring things out, you're taking experiments, they're not working the way you thought they would. Like it's not fun to be in stages 2, 3, or 4. 4 is a little bit positive because we are getting some kind of reason to be optimistic, but the grind is still there of the work we need to do. So when you go through those 5 stages and you come out the other side and you're successful, right? You build a business, it's going well. And then all of a sudden you have to reset back to number 1. Your brain, your unconscious is saying, I have to go through all this pain again. And it knows it's going to be painful, right? So our unconscious, super powerful, towards pleasure, away from pain, all it cares about. So when it senses and perceives upcoming pain, and it doesn't perceive long-term pleasure, right? Delayed gratification, it will have us procrastinating in the present moment. Right. It's the reason why when people kind of build a business and then they have the ability to scale, they kind of just pause and plateau because they know going after scale is going to send them back through those 5 stages.
I'm going to pull up the diagram real quickly for you here, Alex.
Yeah. So like it's really, really tough. But like the one thing I tell my clients a lot, and I know Taylor probably does too, is like you have to choose pain. Right. You have to choose pain in the present moment. If it was easy, everybody was doing it. If it was simple, everybody was doing it. We want to make sure that we're choosing something that is differentiating us, but we get to choose. Pain is a choice. And a lot of times my clients who are struggling, I always say, like, you can go back and get a 9 to 5 and do that and figure that out and sit in an office in a cubicle. Is that more painful than trying to figure out this business again? It's a choice, but you have to choose it because anything worth doing, anything of value, anything that provides that long-term outcome that you're looking for will involve some kind of going through and being uncomfortable.
Love it. I don't know if you can see it, Alex, from where you're looking.
I can, yep.
Yeah, I've got the diagram up, but I'll pull you back. I want to jump in for Patrick real quick and add a thought to this. So Patrick, I want to also jam on your industry, sales, business, and solar. So I know a little bit about this. Actually, one of Commit Action's board members built several hundreds of million, maybe 400 million pound solar business in the UK, and they did it in a legislative window in time where that kind of allowed this business. It was like a turnkey moment where this arbitrage business was suddenly possible. And the bitter pill for Patrick that I want to tell, but there's a lesson in this for everybody watching, is Patrick, you're going to hate this. If it's really easy to make a bunch of money in a moment of time because something has happened in the landscape, could be political, a legislative shift or whatever, then easy come, easy go, right? Those windows, if you're in a arbitrage business, right, where you're knocking on doors, like there are moments in solar in different places in the United States and the UK where you were, like in the UK, you were essentially knocking at a time, 10 years ago, knocking on the door, being like, do you want free solar? You know, do you like sign here and the government will underwrite this loan and then like we'll install it, you'll pay nothing, and then the grid will pay you, like the utility company in 15 years when you've paid off the loan from your savings will pay you. And the people are like, what's the catch? And they're like, thanks to your politicians, there is none. Sign here. And then those people were collecting commissions and making money on that. I'm guessing, Patrick, that your deal wasn't quite as crazy as that. But when there are these moments in time where there's these arbitrage opportunities, if you're going to chase them, and there's nothing wrong, like some of the wealthiest people I know are people who had the right time, right place, found an arbitrage window where they were just able to like build a business. What you've got to be ready for is when the window closes, you got to run with the bag of money and stop, you know, like get and kind of get out of it. So that's the secret, is to acknowledge that like you're not building a business that's like sustainable, like some Japanese multi-generational 150-year company, right? Like Toyota. Because to do that, you've got a timeless value proposition. You're also going to be making small margins, right? Like you're not going to make the type of margins you make in a sales business in solar. It's a totally different game. So there's something about the model that you've got to understand, that this type of thing will keep happening to you. And my advice to you, Patrick, is you're probably in the sales business more than you're in the solar business. And I'd spend time looking for the next sales opportunity that you can apply your skill set to, where there's an arbitrage window that's open, you know, where the money is to be made. Because the real alpha is in the sales. It's not in, like it was in the solar, but if the window's closed and the laws have changed, then you got to like wind it down, get out of it. The people who make the money are the ones who keep their finger to the wind of what's going on with those laws, with that landscape, with when the window is open and when it's closed, and they adjust their P&L to follow, so that they don't throw good money into a closing window and then like end up losing what they've created. So yeah, easy come, easy go is the moral of the story on that one. What else have we got?
Yeah. So we have a question from. I'll add just really quickly to that too. I have clients. I've had client conversations like this. Just a wee bit of reassurance is that you're also not the same guy you were when you started that last venture too before. Like everyone always goes back to square one. You have skills, you have knowledge capital, you have network capital. Like there's things that you have at this stage that you didn't have before that might make life a little easier too. So use them. So I'm going back to the chat here. Mitch had another question. He's talking about his team and kind of going back to the theme of his team. Maybe some needing some accountability. He said, when something breaks, my instinct is to jump in and fix it myself because it's faster and the client is watching. How do you resist that without letting the client eat the cost of your team's learning curve? I feel like that comes up a good bit.
Wait, run it back to me one more time.
So when something breaks, my instinct is to jump in and fix it myself because it's faster and the client is watching. How do you resist that without letting the client eat the cost of your team's learning curve?
In services, that complicates it. That's a tricky one because so Mitch is here live. So Mitch, I don't know if this is the answer. You can push back on me on this, grain of salt. But my thought about jumping in general is, it's okay if you do it if you're making it a learning process, right? Like if you're jumping in, are you doing it quickly? Are you just doing it because it's easy, faster, better if you do it yourself? Or while you're doing it, are you actually explaining the rationale behind why you do it the way that you do it? Are you doing something to engineer a situation where your team is learning from this process? Like that they're not going to have it happen again? Or are you creating a culture of learned helplessness? Because if you just kind of metaphorically push people off their keyboard, right, and be like, just let me get in here, then you're creating that learned helplessness, because they're going to get to places of like, oh, I don't know what to do, better get Mitch. But if you're kind of leaning over their shoulder and saying, hey, let me show you how I would do it differently, and then you're like, this is why I think about doing it this way. Here's my rationale. Complicates this is, if this is visible in front of your client, right, then you've got to frame it to the client. So you need to communicate how you need to pre-frame to your client how you're going to handle these types of situations. My sense is, in any type of services, if you tell the client before you get started, before this comes up, that there may come times where you jump in, you're going to have various people on your team supporting the client, and you just tell the client, hey, along the way, there may be things that come up where the team need my assistance, and you're going to see me jump in and help and assist them and coach them. That is part of our process, and it gets you a better product. It gets you a better service. The psychological secret of pre-framing is basically you can get away with anything if you tell people you're going to do it before you do it, because then they positively anticipate it. They understand what's in it for them. You got to pre-frame, here's why this is good for you. Then when they see you doing it, they're like, there he goes doing that cool thing he said he was going to do, right? And so you turn the bug into a feature, right? You turn the problem, the obstacle is the way, as Ryan Holiday would put it. So yeah, that's Mitch. Let me know in the chat if that resonates, but that's my 2 cents on that.
Mitch said that's fire. So I think that's good.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's fire. My company is now on fire. I followed your advice. It's burning down. It's burning to the ground. What else have we got?
Yeah. So Sam's a new client. Sam asked an interesting question that I wasn't expecting. If you were starting a social group for introverts that strive to get out of their comfort zone by doing activities together, what SMART goals / incentives do you think are vital to start? I guess we could talk about social groups, but I also just think there's such a theme here of doing the uncomfortable, like what to do to get out of that comfort zone, you know?
Yeah.
And desensitize.
The funny part to me about this one, this is a facetious answer, but I just want to say, and then you can say something serious, Taylor, is it cracks me up. Like, I do a lot of work in the startup space. I was involved in the startup studio and venture capital fund for a while, and all these like young people would come in and pitch. I used to do their deal flow analysis, so I'd hear pitches all day. And a lot of the young people would come in and pitch, and they'd be like, hear me out. They'd be like, okay, here it is. They're like, it's Uber, but for startup founders. And I'm like, okay, so your customer is you. And they'd be like, yes. And I'd be like, so what do you need us for? And they're like, money. We need to raise money. We have no money. And I was like, oh, what's your cash runway? And they're like, oh, we're out of money. And like next week we need to get this done. We need to raise money. And I'm like, so your customer is people like you, people with no money. Yeah. So the irony here is like, you're building a social community for introverts. Be very, very careful. Are you building something for people who don't want what you're building? I'd be really curious to try to take this to a serious place. How are you validating this business idea, right? Like, how are you finding product market fit? Because that, before we get into, like, I think the question, Taylor, was about what SMART goals or incentives do you think are vital?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's tough, because like if you have to incentivize your customer to participate, that might mean the opposite of product market fit. Maybe. I don't know. But anyway, I feel like you had a meaningful thought on this, Taylor, so I want you to say.
I was just thinking about, like, I guess maybe exposure therapy, like to the uncomfortable, and just like taking the charge out of that. I don't really know about the group dynamic of that.
Yeah. Well,
that's interesting, kind of shared.
Actually, wait. No, I just had a brainwave. So I just realized, because I'm looking at this question, that your customer strives to get out of their comfort zone, right? So the striving is the key word. So here's how I think about this. They want to do it when they're the best version of themselves. And you've got the right brain trust here with me and Taylor and Alex, by the way, because this is exactly the same. Alex, you guys can't see, but Alex is smiling right now. This is exactly the same as commit action. When your customer is the best version of themselves, this is something that they want to do. But your big problem is, how often are we all, if we're honest, really the best version of ourselves, right? On a Monday morning when the caffeine hits just right and you're like, yeah, like I'm an introvert, but this week I'm going to go to that meetup thing because I wanted to do it. But it's on that like night when you've had a rough day and you're feeling tired and burnt out, and like, do you actually want to go do it? So we kind of have this emotional spectrum that we go on. And this is the hard thing about what we do at Commit Action, where we're selling coaching. Like, when our clients sign up for Commit Action, they're always in that best version of themselves mindset. They're like, I'm investing in myself. This is something that I need. The hard part about what we do is they meet us on their calls. The first one, they're excited. The second one, they're a little less excited. The third one, they're like, oh, there's stuff going on in my business, I'm overwhelmed. They're no longer the best version of themselves. So what you have to do is build a business around accountability. And I don't think you should model us for that, because one-on-one coaching is not what you're trying to do. You're trying to do it in a community. What you need to model is Alcoholics Anonymous. You want to build a cult. You want to build something that is about the commitment to show up, right? And have everything revolve around that kind of fundamental idea. If you're essentially building Introverts Anonymous, and I would take this is very, very specific advice for this person, so I'm going to move on to more general questions, but I would take that playbook. I would go ask Claude or ChatGPT about that and see what you can learn, because there is a really effective playbook that does really drive results in terms of behavior change. And that sounds like a killer business idea. I've completely transformed my opinion just by talking to myself about this. That's how we do it. What else have you got?
All right, we got a good question from Sharon H. She said one of the biggest barriers to scaling is finding the right talent at a high level. A challenge as the owner of multiple small businesses, 1 to 7 million per year each, is the rapidly growing compensation gap. Where pre-pandemic, getting an A player might have been 100 to 150K base, the same caliber now are wanting 250K plus. Training up was how we first handled it, but we're now finding that as soon as they have the title / experience, they're shopping around for higher compensation.
Yeah. Damn, that's a real problem. So what you're experiencing, this is Sharon, what you're experiencing is inflation, right? Like, we've been running hot on inflation. In the last 6 years, we've absorbed, I don't even know what it is, well north of 30% in inflation. And there's some estimates that are even higher. And it sounds like you're in a part of the labor market where it's gotten really spicy. So you've got some fundamental stuff you've got to fix about your business model if you want to really take care of this, which is what's driving all of this type of labor market inflation. Also, I think AI does have a big part of doing it. I know the numbers are mixed. There's all these reports that corporate America isn't seeing benefits. Let me tell you, like, I work with a few really frontier AI companies. Like, I have a client that I work with personally that's a med tech, like in the medical industry AI company. They're a huge technology business in San Francisco. They are driving massive results, and this stuff is real. You need to be embracing those tools to create cost savings in your business so that you can redeploy those saved costs into higher salaries for fewer people, right? We probably need to do a masterclass on the how of all of this and applying it to your industry. But if you are still doing things the same way that you did them 5 years ago, that's a problem. And you're essentially losing people to the companies that are going through that K-shaped economic recovery, which is what's happening in America right now. It's happening all around the OECD globally. So these high-paid executives, salaries are going up, but the jobs are getting fewer and fewer. And you seem to be caught in this weird place where you're manufacturing people who are qualified to go and do that. And so you got to overhaul, it's a big project, but you got to overhaul what's going on in your business and figure out how you can get some of your top people better paid, incentivized to stay, doing more with less, empowered by technology. This is very real as well. Our Commit Action's productivity in terms of we hire coaches still all the time, but every other aspect of our business, our hiring has almost frozen, but our productivity is growing through the roof. And this is a very meaningful change that it's a big experiment that we're living through right now. And if you're not a part of that, that's a real problem it's an economic problem, making it difficult to retain talent. So let me know in the comments if that resonates or not. I know it's a big one. It's a tricky one.
She said it's primarily in tech, low level to mid level. Our issue is just senior positions, and she said she's nodding on her side. She said, I'm nodding here. So sounds like it went over well.
I'll do one more second on this. So I have this client that I'm talking about. So I'm formerly the Shrink for Entrepreneurs, but long before I started Commit Action, I was doing one-on-one work with a lot of VC-backed tech founders. I still do a little bit of that. So one of my clients right now is the founder, CEO of this company they're doing on track to do 250 million in ARR this year. They're in an elite medical technology sector. And I have to be very careful about privacy here, but in case people can connect the dots, but they recently this year had a 30% workforce haircut with no loss to productivity like their revenue growth is exploding while they're cutting those costs because of how rapid this like labor change is. Now, they were a business that were incredibly concentrated in the type of low level programming that AI has like totally solved for. So it's like a big revolution in their company, but this is like very, very real. And so like if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see me talking about like AI psychosis. I think a lot of small business owners use AI in a lot of wrong and very counterproductive ways, but the impact in the technology sector itself is very, very real. And you need to take this extremely seriously if this is a business of yours. That's my 2 cents and my pep talk for everybody. If we've got more questions about that from others, happy to dive in. How are we doing on time? We got 8 minutes left on this workshop though. Where are we taking it?
I like a question in the YouTube chat from Rose. Rose asked, she said, imposter syndrome and RSD convinced me I'm underqualified, leading to people-pleasing behaviors that paralyze me from making critical sales calls. How do I stop letting this fear paralyze me?
Sales calls, people-pleasing behavior. Yeah, you're
imposter syndrome.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that the hard part is actually asking for the money, right? Like asking for the close. Yeah, that's a really good one. I mean, this kind of echoes the question that we had before, which is like where we were talking about like almost like ethical selling, right? Like I remember I used to do years and years ago in a former life, still with the psychology focus, I was working with salespeople and helping sales teams like unblock their best people at a psychological level. And I learned this idea from like the old school world of like corporate, like door knocking, like salespeople, like the Fuji Xerox kind of sales guys who were like, can I get you a better deal on a copier? This idea was a salesperson has to believe in a couple of things to be successful. They have to believe in the product that they're selling, right? They have to believe, and this is really tough for entrepreneurs because when it's like, you're not just a salesperson, like we had this solar sales guy in here, where it's like, yeah, you believe in solar, you know the product's good, there's an economics to it, it's like, I can tell you how much money you're going to save, when you'll pay back the cost of the install, et cetera, et cetera. But when you're the entrepreneur, you've got to figure out, you've got to really believe in what you're selling. You have to believe in the industry you're selling. Like you can't, if you're in like a scam space, that's going to come through and you're going to have this like this constraint. You're going to have this war inside of you, this tug of war that's holding you back. And you have to believe in your ability to sell it, right? Like those beliefs have to be developed and like imbued into an effective salesperson. And so the way that this happens at really, if you want to run successful sales strategy at a large organization, you have to share the CS, the customer service wins with the salespeople so that they know that the stuff they're selling, a year later, the customer's writing testimonials and like there's happy people reporting great news and stuff like that, so that they're constantly being indoctrinated with that information so that when they go out, they sit across from the person and they're like, I'm just here to tell you, you can go with the other guy, but we are hands down the best at this in the whole game. And they like looked them in the eyes and they mean it. So for whoever asked this question, how are you doing that for yourself, right? Like as an entrepreneur, it is 10, 100 times more difficult to get to that place of psychological confidence, of belief in your industry, belief in your product, belief in yourself and your own ability. Because like, are you doing anything to feed that? You have to, if you're new to this, you have to prime yourself. You have to get yourself psyched up and ready to do that. I'll tell you the way that I did it back in the day and the way I still do it now. I go look at testimonials. Do you have any testimonials from anybody that you've ever worked with who tell you what a good job you're going to do? Do you check that stuff out? Do you watch it? Do you let yourself sit with it and try to find that gratitude moment before you dive into a sales call? Because in addition to listening to like the Final Countdown or like Eye of the Tiger or like something like that, you know, you should also like, you should have a pre-sales ritual. You really should. Like this stuff works. It's the reason why if you go into like a very successful scaling sales organization, there actually will be like a cheesy gong in that office that people like hit when they make a close. If you're an entrepreneur, you might think all of that stuff is lame and like I don't need it or I shouldn't need it. but you're way more psychologically vulnerable than the psycho kids that they put in those boiler rooms and play that like Alec Baldwin, like coffee is for closers video to, or the like DiCaprio Wolf of Wall Street microphone to his forehead, those things. You have to have a kind of a ritual. And for entrepreneurs, I think the single biggest thing in that ritual is you have to remind yourself that you do great work with people who appreciate it. And if you haven't got any examples of that, my simple advice is go do that great work for free and generate the testimonial. Get somebody who's like, I can't believe you helped me so much without even charging me. Then go sell on the strength of that confidence. That's how you overcome imposter syndrome and cold call reluctance.
Yeah, that's great.
That.
My other thing is that I always say it's actually pretty rooted in psychology, but it's a very common saying is fake it till you make it. Right? Is like if you feel like you're in imposter syndrome, like who do you actually want to be? And just act like that person now. Right. And over time, it's just doing the thing and becoming that person because of what Peter's saying, it all ties together, right? Then you're doing the thing, you're making sales, you're seeing the feedback, it's even more motivating, you have the momentum. But in the present moment, you're trying to be, I don't want to say it, it might sound harsh, but you're almost trying to be someone that you're not, but fake it like you are that person. Right. Like if I was the type of person who was going to make this amount of money doing sales, like how many calls would I need to make today? And then be the person who makes that calls, whether you want to or not. Right. And one of our other cheesy sayings we use internally in Commit Action is like, let fear be the compass pointing you in the right direction. If you're afraid to do something, like 9 times out of 10, it's probably the most likely the thing you should be doing. Right. But figure out a way to get yourself to do it enough times until you can see the positive feedback from it. And sometimes it's just showing up and doing the thing, whether you want to or not.
And to double click into faking it till you make it, like a lot of people are like, but how, right? I'll tell you how. Like this is how literal you can get, and it actually works. There's a cognitive science like argument that like research evidence argument that this actually works. Ask yourself, how would an expert confident person who does this all the time stand, walk to the desk, sit down, make this call? What would they do with their posture? How would they breathe? And actually inhabit that in your body, like do the like psychosomatic body work of like, I'm going to get into this place. I'm going to pretend as if I'm this killer salesperson. It actually helps, right? Because you'll realize that you're making these calls and your posture is terrible and your spine is all fused and tight. And you're like you're dialing the phone and you're like, hello, like you've got to stop that stuff. You've got to fake it till you make it physiologically. If you don't know where to begin, start there. That's a really great place to start.
Yeah, I love it.
So, yeah. Anything else, Alex?
No, that's good. It's exactly same train of thought.
We're at the top of the hour here. This has been our live stream. We do one of these every month. This is the first time we did an experiment where we actually live streamed out to people who have been in the Commit Action broader community for a little while. Those guys are joining us on YouTube. We took all of our client questions through our dedicated like app and portal here. So shout out to the Commit Action clients. But it's really great to have some outside voices asking some actually very cool questions. We got through all the client ones as well. To the people who are here, there are a couple questions that did come in that were like, how do I know if I need a business coach or an accountability coach or whatever, stuff about our service. I just want to say something really quickly to you all. 917-819-6259. That is our company phone number. Send us a text because me and Alex are about to have a meeting to discuss some important business stuff internally. And we will be manning that phone number for the next little while this evening. And if you are not a Commit Action client but would like to be, ask us a question. We will hook you up with a discount that our head of marketing would kill us if he knew that we were giving out, just because it's the first time we've done this and the live stream on YouTube has got some people asking those questions. So come on in. We'll make you a crazy, crazy offer if you'd like to work with one of our coaches. Drop us a text, 917-819-6259. I would say call, but we can't talk to you all at once. So send us a text and we will chat. I'm telling you right now, Alex, wave your hand. It's him. It's me. We'll be in there saying hi. There is no salesperson, and Alex didn't know that I was going to sign him up for this. But nope. I'll do the majority of it, Alex. Don't worry. All right. That's it, crew. To our clients, if you would like us to hit a topic or if you want help with anything on your business, send me an email. You can do it anytime. You don't have to wait till our next live stream. I will make a little video for you, send you a voice note, or keep your question if it's not an urgent one for the next live stream. One way or another, we'll talk strategy, we'll talk psychology. We will get you what you need. And we'll do another one of these in September. Back to school. And back into the sprint to the end. I can't believe this, of 2026.
Crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. So thanks, Alex and Taylor, for joining me. And I will see you guys all next month.